we do have some PLL stuff to discuss because roster movement is coming up. The offseason is about to start on January 18th, which means we're going to be getting some PLL offseason news very soon. Coaches will have the ability to make roster moves on January 18th and before January 24th when the player signing window starts. So you could see some coaches make some moves, whether dropping or adding players from the player pool or even some trades. Any big names on your radar, Adam, in terms of people that might move during the signing window?
Yeah, one guy I'm curious if he'd stick around. I've been talking up the Firewolves, and that's one of their big guys, and Andrew Q. I really thought he was going to have a bigger role with the Cannons last year. Coach Quirk, I was really excited when he traded for him right before the season last year. And I think he could be an absolute dominant force for someone who's looking for a guy like that. Obviously, Lyle Thompson loves playing with Shane Jackson, and I think that probably had a big role in why he didn't produce as much. But I think in the right situation, Andrew Q could be super dominant in the PLL next summer.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it'll be interesting too what coaches decide to do because they have to, finalize their roster before the 24th. So that way they can start making those signings and restructuring contracts to, get within that threshold that they have now this coming season. So not really a free agency period per se, but pretty close to one in terms of, there is still going to be some player movement. And a player that I think is going to be on the move is Jake Fricaro. I think he's too good to not be starting, not being a healthy scratch on this Chaos team. Obviously, they won a championship without him, and that's not a disservice to him or to Andy Towers for not playing him. Andy Towers joined us on the podcast after they won, and he laid out the reasons why they went with a different offensive personnel than Fricaro. But I think that gives Coach Towers some leverage to trade Fricaro maybe for some pieces. So I don't know where he'll end up. My proposed trade would maybe to see him actually go to the Cannons, and maybe the Chaos get a defender back. Maybe like a Holden Garland. I don't think you'll see Brody Merrill necessarily go back to the Chaos, but I do think that while this defense played well down the stretch, they could add another defender, especially given that Johnny Surdick and his military commitments might not always be available. So I'd like to see them maybe trade Fricaro to the Cannons. And, I don't know if Coach Quirk will go for that, but maybe they get Holden Garland back as a defender. Sure. And, they have a spot opened up now on midfield with Rabel retiring and Connor Busick may not have many more seasons. So that's the other thing is with some of these retiring players, there's some spots opened up for some of these rosters. Another team, the Chrome, they could be a destination too, because Joel White and John Galloway opened up some spots, obviously different position, but I think maybe they could also be in for Fricaro, and they also have a lot of defenders that they could trade. You could see James Barclay, who played with, Jared Newman at Providence, maybe get traded. He's also a versatile. He could play short stick defensive midi and pole. I think Chaos are pretty good at short stick defensive midi right now, but wouldn't hurt to have someone of his caliber, and I think whatever it ends up being, Chaos are going to get some picks back. You could see, them traded. He could get traded for some players, but I think they're going to get picks back. So those are the two spots I think would make the most sense. But I wouldn't rule out the Archers either, given the fact that Fricaro played under Coach Bates and played with Tom Schreiber when he was at Princeton for a couple years. So that's also, something to look out for. I just think given Archer's crowdedness on offense, it makes it a little bit unlikely that happens. But we'll have to see, and there's still a realistic possibility he gets released if a trade can't get done. Again, that's not really a disservice to him. It's more just the fact that if the market's not available for someone to, want his services, you could see him, drop to the player pool. I don't think it happens. I think Coach Towers gets something for him and is able to trade him to another team. I think there's going to be some teams in for him, but he's a player that I'm looking out for to kind of watch where he ends up, because I think he might be on the move before this signing window starts on January 24th.